Hey, how's it going, guys? Mush back at it with another video. I have some very interesting news to cover in today's video. The fact that PUBG is still alive and kicking. I think a lot of people are looking at PUBG being on a downhill slide and a game that's on its way out, but reality is PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is here to stay, and overall in 2018 the game still made an incredible amount of revenue, and I think the game will be sticking around for quite a while, even though that there are many competitors. We have games like Fortnite, of course Apex Legends. There are other paid options like Call of Duty's Blackout mode. Battlefield 5 just added its Firestorm mode, and PUBG is one game that some were looking at thinking, hey, maybe it's time that this game, while it might not completely die or anything like that, it was going to begin to start falling lower and lower, but I don't think that's the case at all. We'll talk about that. Also, we gotta talk a little bit about the Epic Games Store. Some very interesting information has come out. Specifically, World War Z is a game that's exclusive to the Epic Games Store. A lot of controversy has come out with that game, with apparently streamers being paid to help keep the Twitch viewers up. I'm not gonna get into that. However, the game is doing pretty well from a commercial standpoint. It has sold over 1 million copies in its first week, but the PC version being an exclusive to the Epic Games Store is one instance where it's very stifling for a game like this, and I'll explain why. And also, speaking on the Epic Games Store, Phoenix Point is a game that went to the Epic Games Store exclusivity route. However, this is probably the most effed up situation about a game going EGS exclusive, and a user over on Restera approximated the number that Phoenix Point developers probably got for the Epic Games Store deal, and it's a sizable number, and it kind of goes to show why developers are going this route of making their games exclusive. So we'll talk about that at the end of this video. But speaking of monetary incentives, PUBG made nearly $1 billion last year, and that barely includes mobile. So this is coming from the industry analyst Daniel Ahmed, and he tweeted out PUBG corporate financials 2018 revenue $920 million, and then that's revenue. So of course revenue isn't actually the profit you're making. However, they also made sizable profit in seeing $310 million of profit. Exactly how that revenue is dispersed from platform to platform, PC made $790 million. So I find that pretty surprising that in the entirety of 2018, PUBG was still able to make $790 million. That's a sizable number, and I find that a little surprising. Mobile made $65 million, and then console made $60 million. One thing to note is that Asia accounts for 53% of revenue, so that is a massive chunk of the revenue, and that's coming directly from Asia. However, all of this revenue that PUBG is generating, even though the player base is dwindling a little bit, I mean, you look at the statistics, there's no doubt that PUBG has already seen its peak. However, it has kind of stabilized, and now the thing is, we have all of these other battle royale games in the market. When PUBG was at its peak, it was really one of its kind, and it was the only game gamers were flocking to. Now you have competitors like Fortnite, have games like Apex Legends, you've got Battlefield 5's Battle Royale mode, you've got Blackout, you've got H1Z1. There are so many Battle Royale games on the market now that, of course, when a game sees a steep competition like PUBG does now, it is going to falter a little bit from the time where it was the only game in town. So I think for you to inherently think, oh, this means PUBG is dying, no, that's not necessarily the case. I think that would be the same for any game, especially in the case of Battle Royales. Battle Royales aren't generally games where you're playing all of them. Generally, when I'm talking to people and we're talking about Battle Royale titles, whether it be PUBG, whether it be Fortnite, whether it be Apex Legends, you usually stray to one Battle Royale title and you stick to that for a while, and then when you're done with it, maybe you'll move on to another Battle Royale game, maybe you'll move on to another game from another genre altogether, but it's not like gamers are generally playing every Battle Royale in the market. I find it very surprising for people to play Fortnite, PUBG, and Apex Legends at once. I literally don't know a single person that does that. Hell, I don't even know a single person in my social circle that plays 2 Battle Royales at once, let alone 3. That's just the world we live in. Even more so than first-person shooters, I knew people that played like Call of Duty multiplayer, and then they'll play Battlefield multiplayer as well, and they'll play them concurrently. With Battle Royale titles, that's usually not the case. You usually just find one, and then you stick to it. So of course, over time, as PUBG got more and more competition and games like Fortnite blew up, games like Apex Legends blew up, although Apex Legends does seem to be at a little bit of a downslide at this point, PUBG was naturally going to lose a little bit of its player base, but its player base still remains incredibly strong. They're still making an incredible amount of revenue. They still continue to update the game. Now the game's available on PlayStation 4. I think PUBG is here to stay for the long haul, and given the fact that it's already been, what, a year and a half, 2 years since it really blew up in popularity, and it's still sticking around all this time later, I think that is a testament to the quality of the game and the fact that gamers do want to stick around. It's one thing for a game like Apex Legends. Yes, it got a surge of popularity initially, but now you already see that downslide coming in just a few months later. With PUBG, it's been around for so long, and the fact that it has persisted at some level for this long, I think is inherently very, very impressive. So if you are playing PUBG, I know a lot of you guys have already fallen off the PUBG wagon. However, it's a game that I find rather compelling. It was my favorite Battle Royale title. I'm happy to see the game continue to truck along, even though it hasn't been a perfect experience. I've had a lot of fun with it. I know a lot of you guys have had fun with it, and I do think it's here to stay for the long haul. Moving on from that, considering we're talking about Battle Royale, Fortnite is the biggest Battle Royale in the world, and that easily transitions me into some Epic Game Store topics, specifically on World War Z, that the game has sold over 1 million copies. I find to be very impressive. World War Z was a game that was released on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Unfortunately, on PC, it is an Epic Game Store exclusive. And in this case, I think with World War Z, it's not a one-year timed exclusive. I think it is a forever exclusive, so that's a little bit of a bummer. And why it's a bummer with World War Z is because, look, let's just talk facts. The Epic Game Store does not have the accessibility that Steam has. Not as many people are playing games on the Epic Game Store, and that much is obvious, especially with a game like World War Z. World War Z is not going to sell people on in using the Epic Game Store over their preferred platform. What World War Z is the perfect kind of game where if it's on Steam and you're browsing through the library, it's a game where you come across randomly and you're like, hey, that's pretty cool, let me check it out. Oh, it has pretty positive reviews, let me look into it a little bit more. Oh, it's $40, maybe I'll add it to my wish list down the line. That's the exact type of game World War Z is. World War Z is not a game like Borderlands 3 where it already inherently has this sizable amount of anticipation and you don't need to sell it anymore. World War Z is naturally going to have that selling process, and to go through that selling process on the Epic Game Store opposed to Steam, that is a big problem with the game, and the problem with World War Z continues beyond that because this is inherently a multiplayer-focused game. This is not a game where, yes, if you alone have interest in it, you're like, okay, let me go to the Epic Game Store, let me check this game out. Well, then you want to get all your friends into the game as well because that's how you're going to have the best experience, and that just causes a train wreck of can you get your friends to migrate on over to the Epic Game Store? Do you even want to buy the game if your friends aren't willing to migrate over? That already creates its own issue. I know some of you guys are thinking, man, you are looking way too deep into this, but no, I've been around this block for a while. This is how it works. For these games to naturally garner reception, especially one that does cost $40, it's not like in the case of Fortnite where it is a free-to-play title. There is that selling process that World War Z has to go through because it's a new IP. It is stifled a great deal by being on the Epic Game Store. Now, monetarily, I'm sure Saber Interactive and Focus Home Interactive are perfectly fine with it because they said this, quote, "We are humbled and thrilled by the immense success so far of World War Z, especially on PC, thanks to the tremendous support of the Epic Game Store." What kind of support did they get? You think they got some promotional support? You think they got, some nice emails, some development support? No, they got a fat check right away. And that's the kind of support they got, which is great for them, which is great for Focus Home Interactive, but I imagine that out of that 1 million sales, I'm really interested to know how many of those came from PC. We never have actually gotten any specific numbers. We don't even know specific numbers about Metro Exodus and how it compares to, say, Metro Last Light, and even that isn't a fair comparison because when you released Last Light, the PC gaming marketplace was far different than what it is today. We can't have direct comparisons, so you can throw out all these numbers, you can manipulate these numbers to fit your own narrative, but we'll never be in an era where we can compare, say, if World War Z was released on the Epic Game Store and in a different timeline where it was released on Steam as well. We'll never be able to tell that story because it's absolutely impossible to tell that story, but nonetheless, World War Z is out. At least it's doing well. I imagine that this is a game that the publisher is happy with because it sold well on consoles and they got the upfront money from Epic. But in the case of this game's longevity on PC, I don't think it's going to persist all too long just because it hasn't had that natural snowballing that I think Steam could have offered. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, it is a business, and Saber Interactive and Focus Home Interactive are probably pretty happy with what Epic Game Store offered. Speaking of what Epic Game Store offered, Phoenix Point developers probably got a sizable check from the Epic Game Store to bring that game from Steam to an Epic Game Store exclusive. Now, this was really one of the effed up ones, where this was a game that was funded through Fig, a crowdfunding platform. So they took a bunch of money from consumers to help develop the game, and then when Epic Games came around, they were like, oh, we'll offer you a little bit of money, bring the game exclusive to the Epic Game Store. And then they kind of stabbed all of the consumers in the back. I thought that was really messed up. Now, they did offer refunds, but you get the idea. without the backers actually supporting the game from the get-go, would this agreement ever even come up? Probably not, and you really have to wonder what type of legal grounds that they have to stand on, but nonetheless, I doubt it's ever going to go that route. However, what's very interesting is that a Restera user seemed to have approximated how much Epic Games paid Snapshot Games, the developers of Phoenix Point, to get that game to be an Epic Games Store exclusive, and he came up with the number of $2.24 million. Now, I'll leave a link in the description box down below where it goes through kind of how he came to that conclusion. I'm not going to go in it myself. Let's just take that $2.24 million, and yes, that is a gigantic number for a studio like Snapshot Games to get $2.2 million to make their game exclusive. Of course they're going to do that. That is a significant amount of money for a studio like Snapshot Games. Now, for Epic Games, $2.2 million, let's be real, that's a little bit of chump change. Considering how many cosmetics they're selling on Fortnite, considering how much money they're making off Fortnite, $2.2 million isn't really much, but that should be an indicator. Think about this. If they offered $2.2 million for Phoenix Point, how much did they offer for Borderlands 3? My god, and we're talking about a 6-7 month timed exclusivity period? Man, I am pretty sure 2K Games got a big fat check for that one. I wouldn't be surprised if it's in that $10 million range, and yes, $10 million sounds like a lot, but for Epic Games, considering they have that Fortnite money, considering they're richer than God at this point, even $10 million isn't all too much. But for the developers, yes, this sucks for us, especially I wasn't a fan of how they went about this, but for a studio like Snapshot Games, for them to have $2 million to invest into the game, that probably will make the game better at the end of the day. If you assess it from that vantage point, probably will be better, but nonetheless, just something I wanted to highlight. Link on how he came up with that number in the description box down below, but that's some absurd money being thrown around. I think a lot of you guys had it twisted in thinking that, you know, it was $100,000 or $200,000 that were being given to these smaller developers. No, smaller developers are getting, you know, big 7-figure checks. Imagine what the major developers are getting. And that's why I think everything is really on the table. Thankfully, games like Octopath Traveler, thankfully games like Yakuza Kiwami 2 will continue to be released on Steam. But it is an indicator of what we might see in the future. And that's gonna conclude this video, guys. Again, it looks like PUBG is here to stay. The game is making an obscene amount of revenue. World War Z, a game that I do think was stifled by the Epic Games Store. However, Phoenix Point got $2 million for their deal. I imagine the World War Z guys got a significant check with their deal as well. That's gonna conclude this video. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. Hey, what's going on, guys? Mush here again. Hope you enjoyed the video. As you guys might know, YouTube's notification system is sometimes a little bit wonky, even if you're subscribed to the channel. Maybe you're not abundantly aware that I uploaded a video. To remedy that situation, make sure you hit the bell notification button. This way, whenever I upload a new video, and I try to upload as consistently as possible, you will be notified directly of the upload, and you can watch it as soon as it goes live. I would really appreciate if you guys hit that button so you can stay up to date with all of the content I'm posting. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.